How we doing, folks? Your host, Moose, here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we welcome you back to our Around the NCAA recap show for Season 2, week number 3. And you can notice we've got a bit of a new layout here, so I want to know what you guys think of that. I wanted to give something to just spruce up the visual appeal of things, especially when we do the recap show where it's not as exciting as the gameplay. Something that just looks cool, that gives you a bit more immersion factor, makes you feel like you're watching a real broadcast. So leave in the comments and let me know what you guys think of that. I would really appreciate it because we'll use that for all the future episodes, provided that you guys like it. So our first segment on our Around the NCAA is, of course, a recap of our last matchup here. I wanted to save this for this episode. Now we can see Pitt Panthers 20, Penn State Nittany Lions 17. So the number 7 Panthers, we come away with a win. We did have to make it come from behind. Quadri Olson, of course, with the winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter to give us the lead over the Nittany Lions, which we did hold off on. We really struggled offensively. 293 total yards of offense, 131 yards passing, 161 yards rushing. So that was where we were very solid. The big difference was we were 4 for 4 in the red zone, 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals on 4 trips to the red zone. Penn State, 2 touchdowns and a field goal on 5 trips to the red zone. They also had 2 interceptions, and that really made the difference in this matchup. Trace McSorley passed for 306 yards, but those 2 interceptions and a couple of missed field goals were really the key here. So as we go through the Panthers, little recap here, players, how we did. Danucci, he was solid. He didn't make any mistakes. He did have 1 touchdown, no picks, 13 of 23 passing, 131 yards. So it was okay, not great, but did enough that we need him to do to win. Quadri Olson, of course, was a star performer on offense for his 100 yards and a touchdown. Danucci, 9 attempts for 7 yards, but he was sacked, I think, 4 or 5 times. So he probably had close to 50 yards rushing. It just doesn't get shown really because of the fact that rushing yards from sacks come out for quarterbacks here. And Quadri Olson was not really a factor in this game other than his really nice kick return in the fourth that set up Olison's touchdown run. He only had 1 catch for 12 yards, 5 rushes for 16 yards. So really no impact there. Jester Weah had 1 touchdown, but only 2 catches. Chris Clark was our safety valve. He had 7 catches on the day, so that was absolutely huge for us. Our offensive line struggled a bit, allowed 4 sacks to Ben Danucci. As far as the defense, DeMar Hamlin was a star, 9 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and of course, what can you say about Dwayne Hendricks' performance? 4 sacks and 6 tackles for a loss, so they were our 2 standouts on defense. Dane Jackson did have an interception basically gifted into his hands. Avonte Maddox had an interception as well. Dennis Briggs and Barry Jenkins II with a couple of deflections for us defensively. Jay Bump, our kicker, did very well for us. 2 for 2 kicking, which is much more than you can say about the Penn State kicker, who really struggled for them. And Winslow, of course, had his usual solid day punting, though Penn State did have a couple of nice returns. Quadri Henderson, 152-yard return was the big key for us that set up our winning touchdown drive in the fourth quarter, so that was where he made his impact on the game. For Penn State, McSorley, 306 yards. He was getting big plays all over the place, but the 2 interceptions really hurt him, and a couple of third down conversions where they should have looked for underneath routes, but we're looking for deep balls, and one led to an Avonte Maddox interception, and others just led to incompletions that forced Penn State into punts when they could have, maintained the ball. Rushing-wise, Saquon Barkley, the guy who's unbelievable, 99 overall. He just couldn't get going. 13 carries for 28 yards. McSorley, 16 carries for 33 yards, which they did very well rushing against us last year, but just nothing going in the rushing game this year for Penn State in this matchup. But passing-wise, they were all over the place. Deshaun Hamilton led the way with 6 catches, but a bunch of different receivers with big catches all throughout. The one thing you'll say is Noah Bay was victimized by Dwayne Hendricks, who had, of course, a 4-sack performance, was fantastic for the Panthers, and that's who he took advantage of. Kevin Givens, though, for Penn State, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. He did the equivalent of a Dwayne Hendricks, had a fantastic game for the losing Nittany Lions, but Alex Barbier, unfortunately, he's going to go back to campus, and you hate to see this for any kind of young player. He's just a sophomore, but he had a rough day at the office. Granted, the 3 field goals he missed were all 45 or more yards, so it's tough to blame him for that. I think the third one he missed was only like 42, but still, 3 long field goals he missed, so it's hard to blame the kicker, even though, if they make those field goals, Penn State comes away on the winning end of things here, so it's a tough way for the Nittany Lions to lose, but it means the Panthers win, and, a fantastic performance for Pitt. It's going to really definitely improve their resume, provided they keep winning and we keep winning the rest of the season. But around the ACC, things went fairly well for the conference overall. Duke, 52-25 victory over Kansas. North Carolina beat Eastern Carolina 27-10. So a big victory for the Tar Heels as they improved to 3-0. Louisville 48-17, obliteration of in-state rivals Kentucky. Lamar Jackson with an unbelievable performance. He had, I think, 4 or 5 passing touchdowns, and he ran 4 passing touchdowns, and he ran for 2 touchdowns as well. So that's a Heisman-esque performance from Lamar Jackson if we've ever seen one. Wake Forest 30 over Vanderbilt 20. Miami 31-22 over Wisconsin in Wisconsin. So that's a huge victory for the number 6 Hurricanes to remain undefeated and take down the Badgers. They did have to come from behind. They were started out down 13-0, ended up with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to break the game wide open, but Wisconsin just could not come back from that, and the Hurricanes were able to hold off any kind of late rally from the Badgers and improve to 2-0. Georgia Tech with their first win, 42-7 over an FCS squad. Ohio State in a ranked battle there beats Virginia Tech 14-3, so a very low scoring affair, but unfortunately for Virginia Tech and for the ACC, they lose that matchup. 2 touchdown passes from JT Barrett being the difference, and UCF does beat NC State 27-24, so the Wolfpack drop to 1-2. In the top 25, though, some big games. Tennessee 38-14 over Arkansas with a nice win there. Alabama easily cruises 55-17. Michigan 42-19 over Miami University, who will have to play your Pitt Panthers in a couple of weeks coming up here. LSU obliterates Missouri 42-0. Another big upset after we see Fournette with 2 rushing touchdowns, Geis with 2 rushing touchdowns, and Harris with 2 rushing touchdowns. So that rushing attack of LSU is well and truly just obliterating their opponents. Maryland with an upset win over Nebraska, improving to 2-0, a 30-20 win for the Terps at home. So one of their signature wins since coming into the Big Ten Conference as they beat Nebraska here in that matchup. Washington obliterates Stanford 34-0, rebounding from their loss to UCLA. Oklahoma barely beats an FCS squad, so the loss of Baker Mayfield going to the draft is really hurting them. They only win 19-13 after losing their opener as well, so really tough times for Oklahoma right now. Texas A&M wins, Georgia wins. Big ranked matchup here. Texas with a come-from-behind victory, 17 unanswered points, including 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to beat UCLA 34-27. And of course, the big thing for UCLA was they lost Josh Rosen to injury in that matchup. He'll be out for about 8 or 9 weeks, so that's going to be very tough for the Bruins the rest of the way this season. This matchup wasn't a ranked game, but I had to point out for you is USC 56-35 over Washington State. Sam Darnold, this is a simulated game, threw for 7 touchdowns and ran for a touchdown as well. One of the most incredible performances I've ever seen. He threw for 6 or 7, then ran for 1. Just an unbelievable performance for Darnold, just putting up massive stats. So NCAA and ACC Players of the Week actually were all the same in this matchup. Dwayne Hendricks wins NCAA Player of the Week and ACC Player of the Week with 4 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, and 8 total tackles in the game. So fantastic performance for our left end, the junior in the victory. Lamar Jackson, 440 yards passing, 32 yards rushing, and 6 total touchdowns for Louisville in the victory over Kentucky. And then I had to show you in the Pac-12. There it is. Darnold, 6 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 450 yards of total offense. What a performance from the sophomore quarterback. So with the results of those victories coming in, let's see how the top 10 shakes out here. You can see no changes in the top 10 this week. Every team in the top 10 either didn't play in the case of Clemson or came away with a victory. Oklahoma goes up to number 11. TCU's all the way up to 12. Baylor to 13. Penn State with their tight loss to your Pitt Panthers dropped back to 14th. So almost a little unfair for them dropping that many spots, losing by only 3 to a team higher ranked than them. Wisconsin drops back to 16 with their loss. UCLA back to 18 with their loss. The Panthers' next opponent, Oklahoma State, is up to number 17 in the poll. So Oklahoma State looking to get a little bit of revenge for the victory the Panthers pulled on them last year. And of course, Nebraska and Virginia Tech dropping out of the polls, and an unlikely candidate, San Diego State, entering at number 25. So with that said, the big games we're going to run into this week, the Penn State Nittany Lions will be heading to Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. Herbstreit likes the Nittany Lions in this matchup, and I think the Nittany Lions are going to have the offensive attack to be able to come away with this one, even in a hostile environment. Miami, Nebraska, really it's just a big one for Miami, taking on another strong foe. Nebraska, of course, was just ranked. We expect Miami to win that one. Michigan at Notre Dame. Of course, it's always tough going into South Bend and playing at Football Jesus, but Herbstreit has Michigan winning there. And then, of course, your Pitt Panthers taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oklahoma State with an unbelievable offensive attack. Number 6 passing offense in the country with Mason Rudolph there. 511 total yards of offense a game, 40 points a game. The Pitt Panthers offense, by contrast, has been really struggling. Number 81 in the country, and even their defense is given 371 yards a game, which is 70th in the country, but they're holding teams off the scoreboard and doing just enough to come away with the victory. The big thing that could be the key here is Oklahoma State's done a fantastic job forcing turnovers, a +5 turnover differential, and if they can do that in this matchup, they're more than likely going to come away with a victory. And of course, their key players, Mason Rudolph, 632 yards passing in the first 2 games of the season, but he does have 4 interceptions. So if the Panthers can force him into some mistakes, that may keep them alive and able to tread water against this unbelievable Oklahoma State offense. Carr and Justice Hill, a 2-pronged rushing attack, and of course James Washington, an unbelievable receiver. He's averaging almost 30 yards a catch through the first 2 games of the season, and he's already got 10 catches so far. For the Panthers, it's Ben DiNucci, 348 yards in his first 2 games, looking to hopefully have a stellar performance and lead the Panthers to a win. Quadri Olson will be the key here. He's got 200 yards through 2 games this season. Of course, the big thing the Panthers need is Quadri Henderson and Jester Weah. Their 2 impact receivers really need to make themselves available and come into the game for the Panthers to have a chance to win. So our prediction for this matchup is going to be the Pitt Panthers here at home. You'd expect, they'll get a little boost from the home crowd, but the way their offense has looked, the way Oklahoma State's offense has looked, we're expecting Oklahoma State to come away with a 42-30 victory over the Pitt Panthers. I think the Pitt offense will be able to get some scores. They'll get some big plays from some of their impact players, but Mason Rudolph has just shredded teams against the pass. The Panthers have not looked good against the pass over the past season plus that we've been working with this dynasty. So I think Mason Rudolph has a field day and Oklahoma State comes in with a victory. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who's going to win this matchup? And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.